Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with the Kit stories. Changes for Kit, Chapter 3, Letters with an S. On the last day in February, Kit was trotting past the door to Uncle Hendrick's room with a laundry basket full of her clean clothes propped on her hip when she heard Uncle Hendrick call her. "Kit, come here," he barked. Inky barked too, then followed up with a wheezy whine. Okay, so he's only used her name twice in the entire series. Not that it matters, it's just something I noticed. Anyway, Kit stuck her head in the door. "Yes, sir?" she asked. "Take a letter," said Uncle Hendrick. "Not now," Kit thought. She'd been rushing to finish her chores ever since going on the eerie early morning light to get Uncle Hendrick's newspaper. Today was a special day. After lunch, Dad's friend, Mr. Hesse, was going to drive Dad and Kit and Charlie to the airport. Kit had already carefully put her camera in her coat pocket because she wanted to photograph Dad standing next to some of the walls he built. She also hoped Charlie would take her picture posed next to an airplane, just like her heroine, the pilot Amelia Earhart. Mother had said Kit could use some of her egg money to have the film developed. Reluctantly, Kit lowered the laundry basket, entered Uncle Hendrick's room, and picked up the pen and paper. She hoped the letter would be short. "Start by writing to the editor," Uncle Hendrick instructed Kit precisely as he'd done many times before. And he cleared his throat and dictated, "This morning I read on page 25 of your newspaper that an empty hospital in Covington, across the river from Cincinnati, may be used as a home for transient persons and unemployed persons." Kit looked up. "Really?" she asked. "What a great idea." "Quiet," growled Uncle Hendrick, echoed by Inky. Uncle Hendrick went on dictating. "This is an outrage. Such a home will attract tramps and drifters all over the country. They'll flock here to be housed, fed, and clothed at our expense. We'll be pampering worthless riffraff. All these hobos are men who have chosen to wander rather than work." "Excuse me, Uncle Hendrick," Kit interrupted. She usually didn't say anything, but this time she had to speak up. "That's not true." "I beg your pardon," asked Uncle Hendrick icily. "It's not true that all the hobos are men who have chosen to wander instead of working," said. "Lots of them are on the road because they lost their jobs and their homes and they're trying to find work. And not all the hobos are men either. Some are teenagers out on the road, some are women, and some are even whole families with little children." Uncle Hendrick frowned at Kit. "Not another word out of you, Miss Impertinence," he said. "Write what I say. Keep your comments to yourself." "Yes, sir," said Kit. She kept silent while Uncle Hendrick dictated the rest of the letter. Inside, she disagreed with every word. "There," said Uncle Hendrick, signing the letter. "Deliver this today." Kit's heart sank as she took the letter. "But Uncle Hendrick," she protested, "I'm going to the airport with Dad and Charlie to take photos." "No, you're not," said Uncle Hendrick, not the least bit sorry to be the bearer of bad news. "Mrs. Smithens came over earlier to tell your father that Mr. Hesse called. He doesn't want to drive anywhere because of the snow." Kit looked out the murky mid-morning sky. Snow was falling in a determined manner as if it meant business. She sighed. "Do as I say and deliver the letter," said Uncle Hendrick. "And do as I say and forget that nonsense you were blathering about earlier, too." "It isn't nonsense," Kit insisted hotly, standing up to her uncle for once. "It's true. Hobos are just poor people who are down on their luck." "That," said Uncle Hendrick in a superior tone, "is just the kind of poppycock I expect your soft-headed parents to tell you." It made Kit furious when Uncle Hendrick criticized her parents. "No one told me that," she said. "I learned it myself. I've been to the Hobo jungle and to a soup kitchen, too." "Whatever for?" asked Uncle Hendrick. He looked at Kit with unconcealed horror. "Hobos are thieves and beggars. Why go near them?" "I want to help," Kit said simply, "especially the children." "Ha!" scoffed Uncle Hendrick, so loudly that Kit jumped and Inky yipped. "You're nothing but a child yourself, still caught up in babyish play like making newspapers. What help could you be?" He raised his eyebrows. "I suppose you're planning to end the Depression single-handedly, is that it?" "No, of course not," Kit said, hating how Uncle Hendrick made her feel so foolish, flushed, and flustered. "I don't mean that. I know I can't change much by myself. Not me alone. She tried to settle her rattled thoughts and speak sensibly. I just think that if people knew about the hobo children, if they saw how terrible the children's coats and shoes are, I'm sure they'd help, she said. And then the children would know that people care about them and give them hope. And hope? Uncle Hendrick cut in sharply. An empty word. Comfort for fools. Hope never put a nickel in anybody's pocket, my girl. And hope is not going to end the depression. Neither is pouring money into useless programs or handing out coats or shoes to hobo children. He dismissed Kit with a backward flutter of his hand, as if brushing away a tiresome fly. Off with you, he said. I, just like everyone else in the world, have better things to do than listen to the jibber jabber of a silly child like you. Go. Kit left. She put Uncle Hendrick's letter in the laundry basket, wearily hoisting the basket on her hip, and slowly trudged up the stairs to the attic. Once there, she did not even have the energy to put her clothes away. Instead, she plunked down at her desk. Never had she felt so discouraged. Never had she felt such despair. For almost 2 years, ever since Dad lost his job, she and her family had struggled through ups and downs, believing if they worked hard enough, things would change for the better. Not just for their family, but for everyone hit hard by the Depression. It was hope that kept them going. If Uncle Hendrick was right, if hope was for fools, what did they have left? The Depression had won, and there was nothing she could do. There was certainly nothing she could do to change anything. Uncle Hendrick made that clear to her. Tears welled in Kit's eyes. She put one elbow on either side of her typewriter and her head in her hand. She sniffed hard, trying not to cry. Then she took a deep, shaky breath. Somehow, the dark, inky smell of the typewriter ribbon just under her nose comforted her, and so did the solid, clunky, black bulk of the typewriter itself. Next to the typewriter, Kit saw the drawing Kit Sterling had made for their newspaper. He'd drawn her striding along, her camera slung around her neck, wearing her new coat. Chipper, she thought. That's the perfect word to describe how I look in Sterling's drawing. And what would the perfect word be to describe how I feel now? Crushed? Flattened? No, squashed. Idly, Kit touched the S key. She remembered how Dad had fixed it when the typewriter was broken. He had repaired the typewriter for her because he knew how much writing meant to her. Kit pushed down hard on the S key, struck the paper with a satisfying whack, a sound Kit loved. Kit sat bolt upright. Suddenly she knew what she must do. Write. If Uncle Hendrick could write letters to the newspaper, she could too. She might not be rich or important, but she knew how to write a letter that said what she wanted it to say. She delivered her letter right along with Uncle Hendrick. It might not appear in the newspaper. It might not change anything or anyone else. But writing it would change the way she felt. Quickly, Kit rolled the paper with the S on it out of the typewriter so she could write her rough draft on the back of it. She picked up her pencil. Now she thought, how do I begin? Then Kit grinned. To the editor, she wrote. Wasn't that what Uncle Hendrick had taught her? Hadn't he, in fact, taught her exactly how to write a letter to the newspaper? How many times had he said that a letter must have one point and must make it simple, direct language, using not more than 250 words? Hadn't he told her over and over again that letters must be signed or they wouldn't be printed? Without intending to, Uncle Hendrick had been a very helpful teacher because of all his hectoring and fusspot bossiness. And Uncle Hendrick was not the only one helping Kit. As she writes, she thought of Dad's dignity, Mother's industriousness, and the cheerful good nature of the boarders. She thought of Charlie, who had gotten back from Montana with his muscles grown hard, back grown strong, and heart grown stout, just as it said in the CCC booklet. She thought of steadfast Sterling, funny Ruthie, and how kind and neighborly Ruthie's family had been to hers. She thought about how thrifty, ingenious Aunt Millie, who saved their house with her generosity. Will, the young hobo who had taught her about courage, and the little girl at the soup kitchen who brightened up with hope when Kit gave her the old coat. Thinking about the way each one battled the depression, the losses and fears gave strength to what Kit wrote. Kit worked on her letter for a long time. She chose her words carefully. She formed sentences in her head and then wrote and rewrote until they sounded right. Then she read a rough draft aloud to herself. To the editor, I think it is a good idea to use the hospital in Covington as a home to house feed and clothe hobos. I have met some hobos, and they are not all the same. Every hobo has his or her own story. Some hobos chose a wandering life. Some people are hobos because they lost their jobs and their homes and have nowhere to go. Some hobos are grown-ups. Some are young people. And there are even hobo families with little children. Though they all have different reasons for being on the road, I think all hobos hope the road they're on will lead to better times. It is a long, hard trip, and they have nowhere to stay on the way. I think they deserve our help, sympathy, and compassion. Hobo life is especially hard on the children. They are often hungry and cold. Their coats and shoes are worn out and outgrown. It would be a big help if people donated coats and shoes for children to soup kitchens and missions. It would show the children that we care about them and that we would give them hope. It would give us all hope, too, because it would change our life. Sometimes hope is all any of us hobos are not have to go on. Margaret Mildred Kitteridge, Cincinnati, Ohio. Kit was sure she had spelled compassion right, but something looked fishy about the word sympathy, and she didn't know whether outgrown was one word or two. Uncle Hendrick always said there was no excuse for lazy spellers, that a misspelled word would make your reader lose confidence in you. So Kit looked up sympathy and outgrown in the dictionary. When she was positive her spelling and punctuation were correct, she typed her letter very carefully. She struck every key hard and with conviction. This time, Kit didn't care if the typewriter was noisy. Uncle Hendrick could hit the ceiling and Inky could howl and yowl. We're not going to stop her. But there was no bluster or banging from below, and Kit was able to finish her letter in peace. She was folding it into an envelope when Ruthie and Sterling came up the attic stairs. Hey, Kit, said Ruthie, you want to come with Sterling and me? I got some shoes and coats that are too small for me, and we're bringing them to the soup kitchen. Sure. Then after, I have some letters to draw to the newspaper office. Letters with an S? Asked Sterling. You mean Uncle Hendrick dictated 2 today? Kit smiled. No, she said. 1 is mine. And that is the end of that chapter. See you later.